maybe with my 5-page article,
Hmm.
you offered a comment of um, something to the effect of "Don't run down uh, the Bill Gates of this world." Um, or
Or don't pick a fight with them. Yeah.
you don't think what?
Don't pick a fight with them. No, no.
Okay. Okay. Do you think you tell me why?
Well, I mean, there's lots of people out there who are prepared to criticise, but I think the message that we're carrying is one that's somewhat more sophisticated in many respects. I think you can achieve the same outcome, but basically, I guess what I was going to sort of, or I guess where I was heading on it was, if you sort of, because we're going to need case studies, so if you do a little sort of case study, like if you sort of contrasted, I don't know, maybe Uber, and I think the other one I was looking at was Sidecar, I think it's called. You can sort of fairly quickly point out the differences between the two platforms. You can sort of say, okay, well, Uber is a centralized platform, aiming to be a monopoly, where the bulk of if you look at the money side of it first, the bulk of the money is funneled into the hands of just a few individuals. Whereas Sidecar, the nature of that platform is it is much more of a distribution model because if you look at Uber, it controls the transactions on their platform. So the people looking for a ride and the ride providers um, are, are put together through the platform. And all of the transactions are transacted through the platform. Whereas if you contrast, and as a result, all the money flows into the hands of a number of individuals. If you contrast that with Sidecar, what Sidecar does is, yes, it's a platform, but what it does is actually puts the person seeking the ride and the ride provider together, and they negotiate the price, and the money goes directly between the two. I think there's a commission might be paid along the way somewhere, to support the platform, but it's more about putting people in touch with people. Now, it doesn't have all of the features and benefits of Uber, but what it does do from a community perspective, if someone's looking like for a regular ride, maybe to like pick up kids from school or something like that, they can develop a relationship with the driver, and that's got that sort of community interaction going there. Whereas if you
Okay. So
contrast
what's
that
the
to
name of the other company against Uber you
um, I,
talked?
I think it's called Sidecar. I'd have to double check, but that's what I was looking at. I think it's called Sidecar.
Okay, I can look it up. And so
So
what
so
what
so
you're saying,
basically, hmm,
what you're saying is don't be sort of just without explaining myself, don't be derogative against the people that are publicly known to have done or are
yeah. Well, I
doing.
mean, because we're advocating, people matter, and we're advocating sufficiency. Whereas if you can sort of say, well, look, here's a gargantuan player in the market at the moment, but here's the other one here. Now, just see how they operate. Like here's the pros and cons of both models, and
Hmm.
let people make up their own mind. I mean, the conclusion they will draw will be blindingly obvious, but I think that's probably a better way to attack it because it does two things in my mind. One is it shows the terrible misjustice which is happening at the moment with this platform domination type approach, and how it sort of destroys value within the community and has people working for next to nothing and all of that sort of stuff, and enables price gouging and all those things.
Hmm.
Whereas the other one, in contrast, whilst it's not as big and maybe not as convenient, it achieves all of these other benefits, which are, you know, very much in line with people mattering and sufficiency and those sorts of principles.
Okay.
And this is going to be the trade-off that people need to work out in their own minds. You know, like, you know, the price for the ultimate convenience is you're at their potentially at their beck and you know, mercy when they destroy all the rest of the industry. Whereas if you look at these other alternative models, sure, they may not be as as convenient, but by gee, you can develop good relationships within the community. The value, you know, circulates within the community. The platform is quite openly aimed at putting people together so that they can negotiate their their prices and their circumstances and their frequency and all of those sorts of things. Okay. So I think that once you sort of lay them out, you know, like, because I guess one of the things which has been in the back of my mind all through this conversation over the last number of months, I suppose now, is it's going to be, you know, a big task to point some of these things out, because as soon as you sort of talk about, you know, oh, well, we're cheaper than anyone else or we're more convenient than anyone else, you know, it's pretty hard to keep people's attention, you know, until you start pointing out some of the things which are obvious but not obvious to people because they're just focused on one or two dimensions. And I think that's going to be an important thing, you know, that if the price that you're prepared to pay to use some of these services is one of destruction of an industry and all of the collateral damage that that has within the local community, and over time, as that industry, you know, evaporates, you know, that you're going to be at their mercy in terms of what they charge, then, you know, I don't think that's being a terribly intelligent or responsible member of the community.
Yeah, okay, I understand. From what angle you come in at. Not to justify myself at all, but I was just pointing out the extremities of people that don't know where self-sufficiency sort of stops, or where enough stops against the rest of the world, who, you know, the majority are poverty-stricken. But I don't need to. I agree with you. I don't need to take them apart or judge them for that. Just pointing out perhaps the four richest people currently, and there's so many to show the disparity really in the consumerism society.
And I think where you can be a little more overt, you know, like that you have been, is when we start talking about, you know, how we got to where we are today, and what are the features and attributes of these sorts of businesses where we are today. So you don't actually have to attack the individuals who run the businesses or anything like that, but you can just sort of say, hey, look, you know, if you follow the journey of how we've got to where we are today, look where we're at. Yeah. And then you can just pose the the hypothetical question. No? Is that in our business?
No, I agree with you. I will relook at that article and just those sentences. Now, any other examples that you got other than Uber and Sidekick?
Oh yeah, there's a few others that I've been sort of working on. So what I'll do is I'll just jot some. I'm trying to do case studies myself as well. So what I'll do is I'll try and jot those down. Now, the thing about the case studies that I'm bringing up at the moment, because it's still reasonably early days, you know, in terms of, you know, this transformation process within the community, some of them will have particular attributes in, you know, 3 or 4 areas. So it doesn't have to tick every box. But also, there's a number of, articles that have been written, you know, around this issue about eternal growth, and you know, more like, yep, I got you back. Yeah, you know, where they're shedding staff to cut costs, or they're restructuring their business just for the sake of restructuring it so that it delivers a short-term outcome on the balance sheet, and all of those sorts of things. So I've sort of been trying to get some of those too, which just add more fuel for us in the sense that the current system's not sustainable. You know, it's just nonsense. And as a result of that, you've got CEOs who are creatively manipulating their businesses just so that they look good in the short term. You know, usually at great cost to the local community. You know, so I think if we can sort of paint that picture in a fair amount of detail, I think it all bodes well for the transformation process.
Yeah, and I think we probably, I mean, you're doing case studies. That's great, because basically I think the case studies will be for the students and be part of the curriculum. And I guess most of my articles and research will be marketing in a sense, getting out there and trying to get. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I guess, yeah, I do. I mean, I have an open mind.